I never thought I'd be the kind of person who could actually plan out a long, slow revenge. You hear about those types in movies, people who are patient, calculated, who can bide their time for years just to pull the perfect move. That wasn't me, or at least I didn't think it was. But I guess when someone takes everything from you, it changes you. It forces you to become someone else, someone you didn't even know you had inside. This all started with my sister, Emma. Let me give you a little background first. We grew up in a pretty normal family. Mom, Dad, Emma, and me. No crazy drama, no big traumatic events, just a regular suburban life. Our parents weren't filthy rich, but they had done well for themselves. My dad had built a decent business over the years, a small chain of stores that sold home goods, and my mom had inherited a nice piece of land from her parents. They weren't flashy people, but they were comfortable. They were proud of what they'd built, and they loved us. Emma and I were close when we were kids. She was 2 years older than me, and I idolized her. She was the smart one, the popular one, the one who seemed to have everything figured out. I was the quieter one, more introverted. Emma was always the one taking charge, leading the way. I didn't mind. She was my big sister, and I trusted her completely. If she wanted something, I let her have it. It wasn't a big deal to me. That was just the way it was. But when our parents died 5 years ago, things changed. They were killed in a car accident, out of the blue, just like that. Gone. 1 minute they were there, and the next, my whole world had fallen apart. Emma and I were both devastated, obviously, but Emma handled it differently. While I was falling apart, grieving and trying to make sense of it all, Emma was, well, she was calm. Too calm, looking back on it now. At the time, I thought she was just being strong for both of us. Turns out, she was already thinking ahead. Our parents didn't leave a will. They were still in their early 50s and probably thought they had plenty of time to sort all that out. So when they died, everything they owned, the house, the business, the land, went into probate. I didn't really think about it too much. I was 23, and I figured everything would just be split between us 50-50ths. I wasn't interested in the money. I just wanted to hold on to whatever memories I could and maybe keep the house to feel connected to them somehow. But Emma, she had other plans. She started making moves behind the scenes almost immediately after the funeral, and I was too naive to notice. She was smart about it, always playing the role of the grieving daughter, telling me we were in this together, that we'd figure everything out when the time was right. I trusted her because she was my sister, the one person left in the world who knew what I was going through, the only family I had left. A few months after the funeral, we had a meeting with the lawyer. I assumed it was just a formality, paperwork and all that. But when I got there, I could tell something was off. Emma was sitting at the table, looking completely at ease, while the lawyer handed me a folder. Inside were the details of our parents' estate, and then the bombshell. The lawyer explained that Emma was the sole beneficiary. Everything, our parents' house, the business, the land, was hers. I just sat there, stunned, as he went on about how there was a signed will from our parents that left everything to Emma. I didn't understand. How could there be a will? They never even talked about it, and I knew my parents would never leave me with nothing. It didn't make sense. I looked at Emma, waiting for her to explain, but all she did was give me this sympathetic look and say, "It's what they wanted. They trusted me to handle everything." Handle everything? Trusted her? That didn't sound like my parents at all. I wanted to scream, to accuse her right then and there of lying, but the shock was too much. I just sat there, trying to process what I was hearing, while Emma went on about how she would make sure I was taken care of. Make sure I was taken care of? As if I was some charity case? The reality didn't sink in until later. Emma had screwed me over, and not just in some small way. She had taken everything. And the worst part? She had done it so smoothly, so confidently, that I hadn't even seen it coming. My own sister had betrayed me. At first, I didn't know what to do. I was angry, of course, but I was also hurt. I had trusted her, leaned on her during the worst time of my life, and she had taken advantage of that. She had used my grief to steal what was rightfully mine. I thought about confronting her, about going to the courts, but it was all so neatly tied up. Emma was smart, I'll give her that. She had covered her tracks well, So, for a while, I did nothing. I moved out of the family home, her home now I guess, and rented a small apartment. I tried to get on with my life, but every time I saw her or heard about her living it up with the money and the life that should have been partly mine, the anger just simmered. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the principle. She had taken something sacred, our parents' legacy, and made it all about herself. For 2 years, I let that anger fester. I kept my distance from Emma, barely speaking to her unless absolutely necessary. But then one day, I realized something. She thought she had won. She thought she had gotten away with it. And that's when I decided, if she could play dirty, so could I. The long con. The thing about revenge is, it requires patience. You can't rush it, especially when the person you're going after is as calculating as Emma. I couldn't just lash out in anger. I needed to be smart about it. I needed her to believe that I had forgiven her, that I had moved on. So, I called her. I told her I wanted to bury the hatchet, that it was too exhausting to carry all that resentment around. At first, she seemed hesitant, but Emma, ever the opportunist, couldn't resist the chance to play the magnanimous big sister again. She welcomed me back into her life with open arms, and I played the role of the grateful younger sibling. I apologized for how I'd reacted, and she, in her self-righteous way, acted like she was doing me a favor by forgiving me. The funny thing is, Emma loved being in control. She loved knowing that she had the upper hand, that she was the one who had everything. She assumed I was the same broken person I'd been after our parents died. And for a while, I let her believe that. I played nice. I even started spending time with her and Daniel, her husband. Now, Daniel, that was another part of the plan. He wasn't a bad guy, just sort of clueless. He adored Emma and seemed completely unaware of what she was really like. But I could tell their marriage wasn't perfect. Emma was always so focused on her career and maintaining her image that she barely paid attention to him. He was lonely, neglected, and all I had to do was plant a few seeds of doubt. At first, it was little things, casual conversations where I'd mention how busy Emma always seemed, or how she never had time for Daniel. I'd make subtle remarks about how hard it must be for him to be with someone so driven. It didn't take long for him to start opening up to me about his frustrations. Emma had always been so controlling, and Daniel, poor guy, had started to feel like he was just a prop in her perfect life. Once I had him hooked, I escalated things. I started spending more time with Daniel, being the attentive, understanding person Emma never was. And slowly, we crossed the line. Daniel and I started an affair. It wasn't love, it was just another piece of the puzzle, another way to break her down. But the affair was just part of the plan. While I was getting close to Daniel, I was also digging into Emma's finances. I knew she had been doing some shady stuff with the family business, cutting corners, hiding profits, and doing whatever she could to avoid paying taxes. I started gathering evidence, emails, financial records, anything I could find that would prove she wasn't the perfect businesswoman she pretended to be. It took time, but I was meticulous. I wanted to make sure that when the time came, there would be no way for her to wiggle out of it. The collapse. 2 years into my plan, everything started to fall apart for Emma. It all happened in a matter of weeks. First, the IRS came knocking. I had anonymously tipped them off about Emma's shady business practices, and they launched a full investigation. Her accounts were frozen, and the business was seized. Overnight, Emma went from being this successful, self-made woman to being under federal investigation. She tried to keep it quiet, but it wasn't long before the news broke. The media had a field day with it, local businesswoman caught in tax evasion scandal, and Emma's reputation was ruined. All her high society friends, the people she had worked so hard to impress, started distancing themselves from her. Her social life crumbled. Then, I dropped the final bombshell. I left an anonymous tip for Daniel, showing him proof of Emma's affair with her business partner. I made sure he saw it right when he was at his lowest, right when he was already questioning everything. When he confronted her, she denied it at first, but the evidence was there, undeniable. Their marriage, already hanging by a thread, disintegrated. Daniel left her, and she was left with nothing. In the end, Emma lost everything: her business, her money, her reputation, and her marriage,